Welcome back to the State of the Workflow series on the Cortex podcast. I'm your host, Myke Hurley, and this time I'm welcoming Casey Newton to the show. Casey is the writer of the Platformer newsletter, one of my favorite publications focused on technology. Casey focuses on tech platforms and the impacts that they have on our lives. He's also the co-host of the Hard Fork podcast from the New York Times. I've followed Casey's work for years, since before he was writing Platformer, when he was writing at The Verge. I've always liked his fresh style. He's very funny. He has excellent sources, and he breaks big stories as part of Platformer. So I wanted to see how he does it and how he manages this workload. Casey also thinks a lot about his productivity and his tools and systems, and I reckon it's going to come out in this episode. I also want to ask you to stick around at the end of the show for a very special message about our work this year with St Jude's Children's Research Hospital. So now, welcome Casey Newton to Cortex. So Casey, I want to get started by asking you the important question. What is the most important device for you for getting your work done?
My most important device is my laptop.
Okay.
You know, I know that we now live in a mobile world, but as I reflect on the tools that I use to get things done, my phone is one of them, but if I could only have one, I would still want my laptop.
I'm noticing as a sense over the course of the series, different groups of people gravitate in different ways, and any writer I'm starting to expect will always say their laptop. Because it's like you can get most of what you need done on the laptop. You can still text people. You can still use maps, right? You might look a bit weird walking down the street doing it, but you could if you had to, but you can't beat the real keyboard, right?
No, I mean, imagine writing a 1,500-word essay on your phone. Like, the very thought makes me tremble.
Have you ever?
No.
No?
Every once in a while, I'll make a mistake and I'll want to go edit my post afterwards, and I'll do it on my phone because I'm out somewhere in the world, and it's torture every single time.
I can imagine actually editing being more annoying than writing, because you've got to like go through and like tap in just the right spots.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you ever write on anything like an iPad or any other tablet or anything like that, or is it always a laptop?
Sometimes. Every once in a while, I'll take like a 3-day weekend kind of trip, and I know that I don't really need a laptop for anything, so I have an iPad with a keyboard attachment, and I'll just throw that on, and I like it. I like kind of having the laptop junior, but if I'm being honest, that's probably something I'm doing 3 or 4 times a year tops.
And what is your laptop of choice?
I have one of these M4 MacBook Pros. Because, you know, to run Chrome these days, Myke, you can't get by with a simple point. M3. You have to upgrade, yeah.
And then when we've got AI like dripping out of our browsers in the future, like, you know, it's going to need all the RAM you can give it.
Exactly.
All right, so I want to jump into the workflow. I want to look kind of start to finish of how an issue of Platformer, your wonderful newsletter, is made. And I want to start off with where the ideas come from. How much of what you write for Platformer is driven by news versus maybe themes or ideas that you want to cover?
So I think there are a few different kinds of Platformer editions that come out. One is essentially just a straight ahead news story. I went out in the world, I found something out, and I write it down. Those tips can come from anywhere. I put my contact information in every email. People send me emails. They send me messages on Signal, and I kind of do it that way. But another thing that I do in Platformer is a kind of news analysis where I wake up in the morning, I see what the big story of the day is on my beat, and I start thinking about how could I move this forward? What is being unsaid? How does this connect to other stories that have come before? What does this thing that happened today predict about what is going to happen very soon? And from there, I can usually start to formulate a column. So I've been writing a daily newsletter now for 7 years.
No way.
Coming up on 8. Platformer itself is about to turn 5. I wrote a newsletter at The Verge before then. And there have been different eras. In some eras, it's very easy. I sort of know every morning when I wake up immediately what I'm going to write about. And then there are eras where it's harder and I have to work harder to figure it out. But those are some of the main ways that I get ideas.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Like, there's always stuff happening, but sometimes it's like, is this actually the stuff I want to be talking about?
Exactly.
You are actually responsible for being the news sometimes, right? Like, some of the stuff that you will write about, becomes the news that other people will write about. What is it like, for as much as you could talk about, I know this is obviously quite sensitive, but what is it like working with sources? Because I imagine you are getting stuff all the time. Some of it's real, some of it's not. On another podcast that I do with Jason Snell, we look at a lot of Apple rumors. And one of the things we're always talking about is like trying to understand what the beginning of that rumor is. Like, what do you use as like an idea of like, yes, this is something I want to kind of expand on and write about?
As you'd probably imagine, it varies quite a bit by the story, by the person. People have different motivations for sharing things. I write a lot about tech policy, the intersection between platforms and democracy. And my work often speaks to people inside companies who are trying to do the right thing. They got into this because they want to make the world a better place. They see tech as a point of leverage where they can do that. At some point, for many of those people, it will stop feeling like that's possible at the place where they're working, because there will be some sort of change. They'll stop doing something they were doing before. They cut a team that was doing something really important. They discover something that they want the outside world to know that their company refuses to do anything about. Those are usually the moments that people will get in touch with me. I find that in general, if you write about a subject long enough and you give people inside these companies a sense that you actually care about it, you will start to build trust with them. And at some point, they may say to themselves, hey, I actually want to talk to this person about what's happening. It can also work the other way, too, where I will get in touch with someone and hope that they will tell me something.
Yep.
Candidly, I do less of that. I always feel awkward, like trying to get people to tell me stuff that they're not supposed to. If I were a better journalist, I'd do that a lot more. But yeah, that's the basic way.
But I guess over time, you end up building a roster of people, and I expect they're probably getting in touch with you sooner than you would even know to get in touch with them on a lot of things, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the dream. When Elon Musk took over Twitter and started to gut that workforce, I'd been covering Twitter for like a decade, and I truly could not even keep up with the tips that were coming into my Signal inbox because so much was breaking simultaneously. And I think I'll probably always look back on that as one of my favorite periods of reporting, just because it was so easy.
I mean, similarly, you mentioned that I'm taken back to all the great work you did at Basecamp and 37 Signals. That was like a similar time where like it just felt like every couple of hours you had another new article. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was another really special one where I would say that I managed to get in touch with one or two employees and build some trust. And one thing that I always say at the end of every interview is, who else should I talk to? And sometimes that just ends up in a dead end because they're like, I don't know. But in this case, they're like, oh, talk to him and talk to her and let me give you their phone number. And like pretty soon, I really did feel like I talked to half the company.
I know I would feel a lot of responsibility in that scenario. And I feel like I would be quite anxious about it. Like, I imagine that you must have to take a lot of device security stuff really seriously in this line of work.
It sort of depends on the company, but some of them are incredibly invasive, I would say, when it comes to their employees' devices and privacy. Companies like Meta will hire former intelligence agency employees to do these kind of internal reviews. So if they suspect someone is leaking, they bring them into a room and they intimidate them. And it's like, give me your device and show me whose phone number you have in your device. So that stuff's really spooky. And so I think over the years, a bigger part of being a reporter is helping the source understand what they might be up against, which often works against the interest of the reporter, by the way. Like typically the reporter wants to break news. But I think if you're a good person and you want the people you're talking to keep their jobs, you do have to explain the risk to them. And then you have to take whatever steps you can come up with together to protect them. So that's, it's a dance.
So if you have something you want to cover, you have an idea for a story, where do you keep the ideas? Where do your ideas get saved?
So I'm sort of bad at this because I do it in a lot of different places, and I sort of always have aspirations to do it slightly differently. So I'll tell you a few of the things that I do while making clear that I do not recommend any of these systems because I think they're sort of like psychotic and self-defeating. So the main thing that I do in the morning is a kind of daily journaling practice. And for that, I use capacities. 5 years ago, I started doing this in Rome, which had sort of invented the concept of bidirectional linking. and did Rome for like a year, but it didn't really develop very quickly. So I tried Obsidian for a while. Then I tried something called Mem. Then I was sort of ready to give up on everything. But one of my readers was like, you have to try capacities. And so I tried capacities because I kind of have a problem. And I just kind of loved it. It is pretty simple. It can do complicated stuff. I don't use most of the complicated features. What I like is it opens every day to a daily note. I sit down in the morning, I create a bullet point, and then I just kind of empty my mind. A lot of the stuff I'm emptying my mind about is just personal stuff.
Sure.
A lot of it is like what I did for dinner last night with my boyfriend. I like just kind of having a record of that kind of stuff because it's fun to go back a year later and be like, what was I doing at this time last year? You know? So none of that is really productive at all, except that I do think it kind of clears my brain. And then after that happens, typically I will noodle on an idea. You know, I'm looking at headlines on Tech Meme. I'm thinking, I could write about this thing that's happening with Meta right now. I could write about this thing that's happening at OpenAI. And then sometimes I'll start to do a kind of basic outline of like, well, I like to hit these 3 beats, or this thing happened earlier this week. I could sort of bring that in. I haven't really seen anybody make this connection yet. So some days it is like very simple, like a sentence or two about what the column might be. Other times I'll actually sort of like outline the column. I actually did this yesterday for the column that I wrote. You know, I knew I was going to do this, and it turns out that once a year, I just love writing about kind of what I'm doing with productivity. And so in Platformer, I wrote like, here's basically everything I've learned over the past year. And it just so happened that I decided I kind of wanted to outline it in capacities. And so I did. Could I have done that literally anywhere else? Yes. Like there's no superpowers in capacities that are making it easy, except that I really do like this kind of time-based note-taking, putting everything into a daily note, creating a little miniature time capsule every day. And I kind of really like it. Now, it can also do tagging, linking. I've experimented with having a sort of big picture idea, like the internet is splintering into zones. And then as I see new stories that speak to that, I will throw those links into that note. And the hope has been that's going to lead me to some really cool columns. I think what I've learned over the past year is by the time I've added the 3rd or 4th link to that note, it's already occurred to me to write that story, right? Like there actually was not that much value in creating that note. And as far as keeping track of all the links, like Google exists. ChatGPT can now find those stories. So even though I'm constantly drawn to this idea of like being a digital gardener and like creating this like amazingly rich interconnected series of notes, having done this for 5 years now, I just have the learned experience that it is not that useful to me.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time looking at this on the show, like the PKMs and all this kind of stuff, right? And the off-board brain. And I just always come back to, I just search. Like, maybe I'll keep the notes, right? Like, and I'll just make some notes about stuff. Search is pretty good most of the time. And like, I'll find really everything that I need from that. You mentioned outlining capacities. Is outlining a typical part of your article writing process? Does that come before writing?
The way that I have learned to defeat like the terror of a blank page is by writing what I call the first draft. What I've learned over the years is that editing is 100% easier than writing. And so even if you write the worst sentence in the entire world, even if you just write down 4 keywords and a verb and a period, you will be able to edit that into a paragraph much easier than if you tried to get it right the first time, if you tried to write a beautiful sentence right the first time. And so for me, I always begin by thinking, like, what are the beats of this column? It's usually like, this thing happened a week ago or a month ago, and it made us think this. Today, this new thing happened. And here's a little quote from the story where we learn what was really going on. And then from there, I get into whatever the column is going to be about. I bring in other voices. I contrast it with another news story. But like structurally, that's how a lot of my columns operate. And so just like getting those beats down into an outline, it gives me the confidence that when I sit down to like do the dang thing, I have a roadmap, I know where I'm going, and I can write the piece in 1.5 to 2 hours.
This episode of Cortex is brought to you by Nexos.ai. Nexos.ai is an all-in-one secure AI platform for enterprises. It helps organizations effectively adopt and scale AI by offering a unified platform that brings workspaces, model access, and governance together. Startups, they love AI, but too often each team grabs its own tools. Sales will use one, marketing will use another, product, yes, another, and suddenly you're paying for 20 subscriptions with no strategy. Nexos.ai brings it all under one roof, a unified platform with workspaces, model access, and reusable assistants. Less chaos, lower costs, more growth. Nexos is like moving from 20 scattered IKEA desks to one big co-working hub. Everything finally fits together. Prevent confidential data leaks, create custom reusable AI assistants for repetitive tasks, and help your team save time and work more efficiently on a secure, unified platform for enterprise. Go now to nexos.ai/Cortex to get a 14-day free trial. That's nexos.ai/Cortex to try it free for 14 days. A thanks to nexos.ai for their support of this show and all of Relay. When it comes to doing the writing, what tools do you use for that?
So I do a lot of writing in Google Docs, even though I think it's a hideous product. It's basically disgusting to me.
I get the sense that this is something that's pretty typical for people that have worked at larger organizations at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who ever had to have their document edited by someone else would do this way. The reason I do it now is because I have an editorial assistant at Platformer who writes link summaries for the links that I save that I put in every newsletter. And we can't both be in the CMS at the same time on Ghost, which is the platform that we use. And so I just need to be somewhere else to write this thing. And Google Docs is just the easiest thing to do.
We'll never write directly in the CMS, right? You should never be doing that anyway.
You know what? Here's what's actually interesting. This is a thing that has gotten better in tech. It did used to be 10 years ago. Yes. It was psychotic to write inside the CMS. You can basically do it now. I hate to say it. You can.
It is a joke, but essentially... Yeah. Then don't write in Google Docs, right? Everything's just saving everything constantly. The reason you didn't write in the CMS before is because it didn't save. And if the browser crashed, you were done, right?
Exactly. And now Ghost, which I write in, will just say hey, your last thing didn't save. And that's usually how I learned that my home internet went down. So yeah.
And then it's immediately copy and paste into a note and get on with the day. So Google Docs in Chrome, I guess, is where you're doing the writing.
Yes, I do Google Docs in Chrome. Every once in a while, Lindsay, my assistant, finishes early and I'm able to just write directly in the CMS. And I like doing that as well. But it's one of those two places.
You mentioned editing. You said you have an editorial assistant. Are you editing your own work? Do they help? Do you have other people help you with editing? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so until last year, I had a managing editor, Zoe Schiffer. She edited my columns. She's at Wired now. After she left, I experimented with just having chatbots do editing for me. A year ago, they were really bad at this. They constantly told me that I was making mistakes that I had not made. They would refer to text I had not written. They did not have access to the web. They could not do any meaningful fact checking. They can do that now. And so now every day, I'll usually have ChatGPT, Gemini, or both just go fact check my columns. They find mistakes all the time. They find typos all the time, grammatical mistakes, style errors. It's really quite good. And so I am actually delighted with the state of AI editing in this moment. Now, I also am very confident as a writer. I am not looking for structural help with my stories. I'm not looking for feedback on did you like my lead or did you like my kicker? If I were a more junior reporter, I would absolutely want those things. But I'm old man now, so I just write the way I want to write and then try to fix the typos.
Yeah, it's gotten so much better. I mean, I know that I tried to use this kind of stuff in the past and I felt it's just writing its own version of the thing that I was writing about. It's we're not even in the same ballpark anymore. But it feels with such little instruction now, you can be just fix my grammar and punctuation. If you want to make some recommendations, make them. But otherwise, just keep this text the same. I find it to be really good for that.
For sure. And to be clear, I actually don't even have it recommend changes to the text in terms of how would you tighten this up? I truly am leaning on myself for that now. Maybe at some point I'll stop doing that, but I like the system I have so far.
It always asks that, right?
Yeah, it's always let me know if you want me to completely redo this. It's well, I don't, actually. You can relax.
Is that the only spot that AI is playing a role in your worker platform, or are you using it for research too?
Yeah, some of the things that it's great at, number one, finding sources. So if you're writing about something and you have not read all the academic literature and you want to know who has researched this, ChatGPT will go out and they will find you the research, they'll find you the people that wrote it, and they'll find you their email address and their phone number. And they'll do that in about a minute. That's incredibly useful. I'm starting to use it all the time. It's also really good at finding a time when. So a lot of times when I'm writing the column, I'll be trying to link something to previous times where it happened. You can now go into ChatGPT, the thinking models in particular are great at this, and say, give me some examples of how the Trump administration is cracking down on free speech. It's like, if I thought long enough, I would remember them, but I'd probably miss some. And now I have a LLM that will just go sort of like pull up everything that's, happened since January. Or after the GPT-5 backlash, I said, pull up some other examples of when a tech company cut off access to a model and caused an outcry. And it went and it did that for me. So I find that really useful. So yeah, those are a couple I'd point out.
Yeah, I feel like for me now, Google is where I search when I know the thing I'm looking for. Like I know where I want to go. And ChatGPT is where I don't know. It's like I just have a question. I have no idea. But Google is just like a quick jump to the thing that I want rather than remembering what the URL is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this stuff's been around for a long time now. It has not changed the ethical considerations. At this point, how are you dealing with that, if at all? How do you approach that kind of thinking?
When DALL-E first came out, I was like blown away by it. I was like, this is incredible. I can just like make images now, almost like creating illustrations or cartoons for my columns. And, I would never hire an illustrator to illustrate an individual column, right? So I didn't feel like I was taking away anyone's job by doing this. And it was fine for like a year. And then like people just turned on it and people started sending me these emails. It's like, I'll never like buy a subscription to Platformer if you like keep putting this slop art in there. And eventually I just kind of declared defeat. And I was like, okay, like y'all hate this. I'm going to stop doing it. I do think that the way that these systems were trained is incredibly unethical. I've talked about that a lot over the years. I think that people should be compensated for the work that they did to build these models. The fact that nobody could opt out of it, I think, is really bad. And I think it's shameful. Unfortunately, we live in a country where there's no accountability for anybody about anything, at least at the level of like technology executives. And so I can keep talking about it. I can keep saying that I wish things were better. And I can keep advocating for systems like Cloudflare's pay-per-crawl, which hopefully will incentivize people to keep making more web pages and actually compensate the people making them and will be paid by the AI companies. So that's like kind of where I'm trying to put my advocacy energy to like live in a more just world. I'm also just somebody who likes trying new things. I like trying new software. I like doing things more efficiently. I'm also a solo entrepreneur running a business, trying to write 3 newsletters a week and make a podcast. So if there's a tool out there that helps me as a research assistant, as an editor, and increasingly a lot of other things, then I am going to use it.
I'm in a similar spot to you, which is like, I really wish this was done differently. However, this is one of the biggest leaps in technology that I've seen in my career. Like,
yeah,
I can't deny what these tools are doing, and what these tools are doing it's impressive, even though there is still moral and ethical dilemmas to it that will probably never be resolved.
Yeah, for sure.
So you mentioned Ghost. This is the platform that you use for publishing. I know you originally started on Substack and talking about more reporting, like you had like issues with Substack and the lack of content moderation, which you have proven to be right at over time, I think.
Thank you.
How did you come to Ghost when it came the time for you to leave Substack? And have you been happy with that experience?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. When we decided we wanted to leave Substack, we looked at a couple other options. The 2 main ones were one called Beehive and one called Ghost. Beehive is another venture-backed platform. They have a lot of outside investors. Their valuation is creeping up. And I just felt very burned with my experience trying to build a business on a platform that owed a lot of money to Andreessen Horowitz. And I thought, I don't want to be in this position again. I do not want the fate of my business to rest on what happens to this company. The cool thing about Ghost is that it is open source software, and it's a bootstrap company that's been profitable for a long time. It's a small team. And even if that company blew up, the software would still work. It's not like the servers would be unplugged or be like sold to some private equity company. So there's just not as much pressure on Ghost to do what Substack is doing now, which is push into podcasts and videos and ads and whatever else it's going to take to live up to their insane valuation. And that just gives me a lot of peace of mind, even beyond like the fact that Substack continues to host literal 1930 Nazi content. I just don't think that business is going to have that great of an outcome.
No.
And I don't want my fortunes to be wrapped up in it. So I've been very happy to not have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like we are, sorry to put you in this bucket, content creators, right? Essentially, and we know what those businesses look like, and they can be really good for individuals and small teams, but even with scaling that up to lots and lots and lots of people, I don't see a scenario where that creates like a unicorn business. It's just,
No.
You can make a great business, but you're not going to live up to that kind of investment.
No, also, I was paying Substack tens of thousands of dollars a year to get the exact same level of service that somebody who was paying them $100 a year was getting. There's always been something really broken about their business model, and the founders have not wanted to fix it. They're just like, come for the network. We'll pump up your free subscribers, and you'll be able to turn those into paid subscribers, and you'll never even miss the 10% of your revenue that we're taking from you. But if you click around, you'll see that this spring, some people's number of new free subscribers started to drop precipitously. The thing is, I write about tech platforms. I know how it works.
Yep.
And tech platforms do not become friendlier to creators over time. They start out friendly and then they get less friendly.
Yeah.
And we're now in the starting to get less friendly era of Substack. So I just think we're going to hear a lot more squealing from the people over there as the screws start to tighten.
So yeah, Ghost, as you mentioned, is open source. They have a hosted version and you can self-host. Are you self-hosting Ghost?
No, so we pay for Ghost Pro, which is their hosted service. It's less than 20% of the cost of Substack for us. They're super responsive, great support. There are some things that we have to do now ourselves that Substack did for us. So Substack used to handle all of our customer service. We now handle that ourselves. Substack would send out your welcome email and your subscription renewal email. And we now use a third-party service called Outpost to do that for us because Ghost doesn't do that natively. So are there aches and pains along the way of doing this ourselves? Yes, but I'm just when I think about what it's going to be like in 5 years, I just know I would be thrilled to be doing it the way we're doing it.
How many people are kind of involved in some way with Platformer today?
It's a 3-person operation right now. So it's me, it's my editorial assistant who helps me summarize the links every day. And then I have an executive assistant who does ad sales, customer support, helps me manage my calendar and various other administrative tasks. So we're a 3-person operation. Next month, we're going to have our first fellow. So for 9 months, we're going to have another younger reporter who's going to be working with me, learning from me, and hopefully leveling up our AI coverage. So yeah,
That's
so
so
next
cool.
month we're going to be 4. Yeah, I'm really excited.
What made you want to do that?
Somebody emailed me and they said, we would like to hire a fellow to work for you and do a bunch of journalism for you at no cost to you. And I said, that sounds like an amazing deal.
I'll do it.
Yeah. I said, I'm sold. I said, you drive a hard bargain, but I'm going to allow it.
How do you all communicate? Are you using Slack, Discord? None of them?
We use Discord. I don't like Slack. The app brings me no pleasure.
Yes.
And when I use Discord, I feel 20 years younger. So that's our solution, is we do everything in Discord.
Your gaming offers, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Slack is one of those classic tools that had so much promise. It was so exciting. And then it just stopped.
Yeah. It turned out mostly to just be a place inside the company that collects all the grievances about the company that would then leak out to reporters like me. And so I often say that Slack is a piece of software that is built to destroy companies. And it has taken down more than one.
Slack is terrible for discovery process, right?
Absolutely. Here is my very pro management tip. It's if you run a company, do not let the employees create their own channels. Okay? You're going to want to keep a very firm hand.
I think the issue is it is still work communication.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it. You know what? It's actually, that is also good advice for employees too, right? Because you want to make sure that the things that you're saying, if you don't want them to ever be read by management, don't say them in the company tool.
It's true. Although it's always interesting to me how many things employees do want management to see. But of course, if you take the path I described, what employees now do is they just start up their own separate Slacks or their own separate Signal groups. So, the horses are out of the barn. The grievances will be collected. I find something uniquely distasteful about Slack as a place to run my business.
This episode of Cortex is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform that is designed to help you stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just getting started or scaling a business, Squarespace will give you everything that you need to claim your domain, showcase your offerings of a professional website, grow your brand, and get paid all in one place. I love Squarespace. I've been using them for over 15 years because they make it so easy for me to go from the idea in my head to the website that I want to tell you all about the thing that I'm working on. They do this with a bunch of fantastic tools. One of my favorites is just how beautiful their professionally designed award-winning templates are. It's so easy to get started. They have these templates that are set up for tons of different businesses on website types, and you just choose what works for you. And it's not just a visual thing. They actually will build out the structure of the website that you can use if you want to as well. So it makes it super easy to know everything you need. And they've made it even easier with their new tool Blueprint AI, which is their AI enhanced website builder. This lets you quickly and easily build a site bespoke to your business. You just input some basic information about your industry and your goals. But however you get started, you're going to have beautiful design options with no experience required. They also help you get discovered fast with integrated SEO tools, because why would you build that website and then nobody can find it? That's why every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions and auto-generated sitemap and more, so people find your site through search engine results. I don't know how to do those things, but I don't need to worry because Squarespace has got my back. Go to squarespace.com/Cortex and sign up today for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, use the offer code Cortex. You'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That is squarespace.com/Cortex with the offer code Cortex. You'll get 10% off your first purchase and show your support for the show. Thanks to Squarespace for their support of this show and all of Relay. Do you have any kind of to-do management amongst the team? Do you use Trello or Todoist or anything and share tasks?
No, fortunately, we're small enough that I don't have to do that. I used to be really excited about those apps, but then I realized that there's almost no upside to the individual worker of using those things. Like, it is always software that the manager has to force you to use, and you're only ever going to use it begrudgingly in like 90% of cases. And I just didn't want to run that kind of business where I was like forcing employees to run software. So instead, I'm just on Discord. It's like, hey, can we do this? How's it going? And that works really well. Now, we're a 3 to 4 person team, so we can do that. If we were 10 people, we probably would have to have a different system. But the level we're at, it's working great for us.
What is your current app of choice for reminders and tasks?
So my hot take about this is that every to-do list app is exactly the same. Like, truly, they're all exactly the same, but I still enjoy changing them out about every 6 months for aesthetic reasons. Like, I think you should use the to-do list app that you think is beautiful. Inevitably, it's going to fill up with a bunch of stuff you don't want to do. You're going to look at the stuff that you haven't done, and you're going to think, I hate this to-do list app. I just want something that works for me. And then you'll shift over, and then it'll look so beautiful when there's nothing in it. And then, over 6 months, it'll fill up with stuff you haven't done, and you'll change again. Yep. So I truly just change every 6 months for no reason at all. I'm currently on Todoist. I think, twist my arm, Todoist is the best of them. I think they're the most thoughtful, and it feels like they pay the most attention to how people actually work and like what would be easy to help them get stuff done. But do I use 98% of the functionality of Todoist? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have lived that life of moving to-do managers. And eventually, I was just like, I'm just sticking with Todoist. Sometimes I wished that To-Dos had a system that was kind of like email, so you could move without having to manually retype everything, because no export tool works the way that you want it to. They just don't. It's just like, would you like just a blank list of stuff with no dates on anything anymore? Not really. It's not what I was looking for.
I mean, sometimes I think that the bullet journal people have figured this out, where it's like, if it's really important, you actually should just recopy it into your planner every single day. And the moment that you stop recopying it is the moment that you admit to yourself you were never going to do it anyway. Like, I do think there's actually a wisdom to that.
So if we're kind of like looking at your workflow, I jumped out for a moment, but like, you've written in Ghost, you've done all your research, you've written the post, you've put it out. How much time do you spend promoting your work?
Yeah, so probably like 10 or 15 minutes a day. Like, every day I will go onto Threads, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. I will usually pull a screenshot of whatever I think is the most enticing thing in the column, craft a post, put it out there. I guess I should say I've also been experimenting with LinkedIn. although less consistently. Sometimes I think about doing other things, but I think like it's easy to imagine a world where I'm spending 30 minutes to an hour to create like a video promo for Instagram and TikTok and trying to use that to drive subscribers. But I think the effectiveness of that would be like very limited.
Do you still find text-based social media to provide you with the value that, say, Twitter used to, like when it was the one place?
No, nothing is as good as Twitter. I grieve Twitter every single day. I refuse to use X. I find it disgusting, but there's a cost to me because there are still a lot of customers that I could reach there. I just can't bring myself to do it, basically.
Especially writing in AI, because it feels like that's where all the conversation is, right?
I know. I hate it. It's like a sacrifice I'm making for a principled reason that is costing me money. And so I do feel that every day, but I just can't imagine another way to live. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Let me drop a name. I had dinner with Sam Altman last week. It was me and 9 other reporters. And I was trying to press him to I was like, Sam, Elon Musk hates your guts, or at least he acts like he does. He's trying to destroy your company in court right now. And every day, you and all of your employees go on x.com and you create value for him to help fund his effort to destroy your company. Sam himself could personally, single-handedly move all of AI Twitter wherever he wanted to.
Yes.
If he went to Threads, Blue Sky, there's rumors that OpenAI is building its own social network.
Make your own. Do anything.
Literally. And I've made this suggestion to him more than once, and I think it's starting to have an effect. So that is my hope.
Yep.
It may be that nothing is ever as good as Twitter was for this purpose, but we'll just make do with what we have.
I just find it so frustrating that I now have 3 where I used to have 1.
On Twitter, I used to really love the replies I would get. Like, I really loved the audience that I had on Twitter. There were like people who would show up all the time that it felt like we had this like really fun, jokey relationship with. And that's like mostly gone. The closest that I have to that, believe it or not, is on Threads. On Blue Sky, I feel like I'm only ever talking to people who are barely putting up with me and maybe hate me. And that's just like not a fun place to hang out, you know?
I think like I follow you on Threads. I mean, I don't know if you do this on other networks too. I feel like you let your comedic side out more on Threads.
I mean, I started writing about social media because I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was like fun to go on Twitter and write a little joke and see if people liked your joke. Like, to me, that was the whole appeal of it. And then I realized like, oh wow, I could like grow an audience and maybe like build a business. But like those were all secondary considerations to me. Mostly I just wanted to like tell jokes and get attention.
I mean, but there was a time where like that was just what Twitter was. It was just jokes about technology. It was incredible.
I know.
And we'll never get
the amount of grief I have for Twitter blows my mind. I truly never thought I could miss a piece of software the way that I miss Twitter.
Yeah.
There truly has never been anything like it in my life.
No, and it just won't be again because no social network will ever be started with the same aspirations that they had when they started.
I mean, on one hand, I'm sort of like never say never. Like, you just kind of never know. But on the other hand, these things do evolve. And so I feel like even if we get a replacement for Twitter in some ways, I do think it will look very different. It will operate differently. So many people have tried to create a one-to-one Twitter clone after Elon bought it. And it was just impossible to get a critical mass. But I don't know. I mean, I think there's reasons to be optimistic about Blue Sky. There's reasons to be optimistic about Threads. And so I try to live in hope rather than despair.
Do you promote in any other way? Do you consider any other outlets that you would get your word out? Obviously, you have your podcast, Hard Fork. Do you consider that as part promotion for Platformer too? Or you see them as distinct?
Yeah, for sure. Because it happens on a semi-regular basis that I'll write something that we will talk about on the show that week. And, I usually get emails from people every week that say like, hey, like I finally became a paid subscriber because I've been listening to you on Hard Fork. I would not say it's an overwhelming number. I think that there's a Venn diagram between the Hard Fork audience and the newsletter audience, but they're sort of separate. Like people who like getting their news via podcasts and people who like getting sober tech policy analysis in their inbox. It's not a perfect circle. On one hand, I absolutely do think it's like very useful, but on the other hand, like it has not been a bonanza in terms of new paid subscribers.
Do you know how people are reading your work? Are they reading in RSS, email, the web? Like, do you have a sense for where your audience is?
Yes, mostly via email, second on the web, RSS distant third. We work with Outpost to create sort of token gated RSS feeds. So if you're a paid subscriber, you can get full text RSS. It's a very small percentage of our audience. I'm very happy to offer it to them, but it's not the majority of people.
That's fascinating. Something's changed.
And I really want to try like audio narration of my columns. but I'm still thinking through the workflows.
You know, I was going to pitch you on this in the more tech segment. I want to impress upon you why I would like that as a reader, so we'll talk about that later.
Okay, well, cool. Yeah, I want to hear about that then.
But like, it's just so fascinating how email has made this comeback, I feel like, in tech, where it just felt like we were all in on RSS, like it was Google Reader, and then that went away, but we just stuck with RSS, and now we all just want emails again. It's very strange.
Yeah. I mean, here's my theory. It's that most people get horrible emails all day. It's spam. It's people who are asking you to do things who you've never heard of and want you to do something stupid that would waste your time. Or it's somebody you work with who, is making a request of you. But then every once in a while, you get an email from someone you like, and you think, I love that guy. I wonder what's going on with him. And like for once in your life of staring at email, you're happy. So I think that's like a very powerful dynamic, and I'm glad it exists.
I like that you've imagined that people get your email and they're like, I love that guy.
I didn't say me. I said they feel that about some people.
Someone. Who knows who else? Somebody else.
Probably somebody feels that way, but yeah.
I do think that email tools that now sort your email into buckets helps a lot.
Do you use one of those?
Well, Apple Mail.
Yeah.
And what I like is that means that my email newsletters, they go in a place, so they're not in my main inbox. So then when I'm ready to read a newsletter, then I'll go and I get them that way. And obviously Gmail does it too, right?
I use that in my like personal Gmail for like my main email at Platformer. I just kind of like get a fire hose of all of it. Like for whatever reason, I don't like it being segmented in that way. But yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense that email should have a tab that is just the newsletters you subscribe to. Although selfishly, I love the idea that I just come directly to your primary inbox. So
I love that guy. Are you an analytics person? Do you pay attention to view counts, that kind of stuff? Is that important to you?
A little bit. I try to keep like basic awareness of like what the open rate is, like how that's rising and falling over time. But really, the only two metrics that matter in my line of work are number of paid subscribers and revenue. It's like beyond that, it's like, who clicked on what story and how many times and all that. It's like, first of all, it feels like very invasive to me to pay attention to any of that stuff, so I truly don't. But also, it's like I'm running a business. Like the job of the business is for that one number to go up, and so I try to put all my attention there.
Do you pay attention to feedback? I'm sure you get lots of feedback coming in via the many social media platforms and probably by email, I expect. People can reply to you, I guess. Do you monitor feedback? Do you try and get a gauge for what people think about what you're writing?
Wouldn't it be so funny if I said no? I delete all those emails unread.
I mean, you could, though, right? Like, you could just be like, I throw this out into the world and I just don't care.
No, I do. I read all the emails I get. I try to respond to people. I don't respond to as many people as I would like to. Platform readers are wonderful. Like, they're incredibly supportive. They're very curious. They're smart. They're open-minded. So I love hearing from readers. And in fact, if anything, I'm trying to figure out, like, how can I kind of juice that flywheel to get it going. Like something I've been trying to do ever since I started Platformer, but I've never figured out is just how to build community. A lot of my readers are like executives at tech platforms. They don't want to like be commenting under their own name, like getting into like fights with random people in my comments. And so I've never figured out a way to like get my community talking to each other because they just work at companies and I feel like they would get in trouble if they were like out there under their own name. So it's been a constant challenge for me and just I've never figured it out.
How do you respond to criticism?
Violently. I will say, I'm going to come to your house, say goodbye to your loved ones because it's over for you. It sort of depends on who it comes from. If it is like a peer, I always take that criticism really seriously. If it's a reader, I take the criticism seriously. I mean, like, again, I feel like I selected for like very smart readers. If I was just writing about like Labubu's or something, I could imagine just having readers who I didn't really feel like I shared a lot of experience and values with, but I'm writing a tech policy newsletter for people who care about tech policy. And so usually if somebody is like, I completely disagree with you, even if I don't agree with them, I'm probably going to learn something.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I feel like feedback is a gift and I wish I got more of it.
And I would expect, especially for the predominant amount of your work being paid, that it's such a self-selecting group of people. The likelihood of them being like weird and nasty is probably reduced.
One of the Substack founders said at one time, like, no one will pay to hate read you. And while I think there are some exceptions to this, for the most part, I do think it's true. Like, I don't think I have a lot of paid hate readers. And that's great because who wants hate readers?
that would be a very weird dynamic, right? Like, I really don't like you, but I'm going to give you my money anyway.
I'll draw a comparison. If I compare the emails that I get about Platformer to the comments that people leave about me on Apple Podcasts, it is night and day. And a reason for that is because podcasts are free. Anybody can listen to a podcast. And somebody can listen to me and within an hour or so decide, I despise being in this man's presence so much, and there are at least 10 things I would change about his personality, and I'm just going to write those all down here in Apple Podcasts. If Apple Podcasts were paid, it wouldn't be that way. Pick your poison.
This episode of Cortex is brought to you by Fitbod. When you're looking to change your fitness level, it can be really hard to know where to start, which is why I'm so happy to tell you about Fitbod, because it is an easy and affordable way to build a fitness plan that is made for you, because that's what you want. You want a fitness plan that knows you, what you're looking to achieve, and how you're performing, because then it will adapt as you improve, which you also want for every workout to remain challenging and also to be helping you move and use your body in the right way, because your muscles improve when they work together. If you overwork some muscles or underwork others, you can negatively impact your results. So if you're doing the same exercise program day in and day out, you're not allowing yourself to get the full effect of the work that you're doing. This also means you'll never get bored, because Fitbod will be mixing up your workouts with new exercises, rep schemes, supersets, and circuits. This is really important to me. If I do the same exercises day in and day out, I get bored by it. If I get bored by it, I'm going to stop doing it. That is not what Fitbod's about. Fitbod makes sure that it is giving me new stuff to do and also helping me do it by showing me videos. They have over 1,000 demonstration videos in the app, so you can make sure that you're learning new movements the right way. Fitbod will track your muscle recovery so you will avoid burnout and keep up your momentum. They make a workout program that is tailored to your unique body, experience, environment, and goals, and this is all stored in your Fitbod gym profile, which is in the app. The app is so easy to use. It also has progress tracking charts, weekly reports, and sharing cards, so you can keep track of your achievements and personal bests, and also share them with your friends and family. It also integrates with your Apple Watch, your Wear OS smartwatch, and apps like Strava, Fitbit, and Apple Health. Personalized training of this quality can be expensive, but Fitbod is only $15.99 a month or $95.99 a year, but you can get 25% off your membership by signing up at fitbod.me/Cortex. So go now and get your customized fitness plan at fitbod.me/Cortex. One last time, that is fitbod.me/Cortex, and you'll get 25% off your membership. Our thanks to Fitbod for their support of this show and Relay. We've spoken throughout the conversation so far and hit upon these moments of like, you've written something that has been impactful. Does that ever enter your mind when you're writing a story? Do you ever think about or weigh up the impact that something that you are writing may have on companies, the industry? And does it ever change your approach?
Yeah, I mean, a really unexpected thing that happened after I started my newsletter at The Verge was that Facebook executives started to subscribe to it. Like, I was writing about the backlash to the company, often critically. I try to be thoughtful and open-minded about stuff and not reach dramatic, angry conclusions about every single thing. But it was like a critical newsletter. And one day, it's like Mark Zuckerberg just subscribed to it. And I was like, that's insane. And so from that moment on, everything you write, you're like, Zuckerberg could read this. And I do think it changed the way that I wrote, probably in ways good and bad. You know what I mean? Like, the bad thing is you always worry that you'd pull your punches, because you're like, well, if this person is paying attention to me, I would like to keep that channel open so that I can get what I think to be relevant information to them, you know? On the other hand, if you just sort of feel like you're wearing kid gloves all the time and you stop saying what you think, that's obviously bad. And then why bother writing a newsletter?
Yeah.
So I think as I became aware that basically the CEOs of all the companies I write about were at least occasionally reading what I was writing, I did feel this added sense of responsibility and added awareness of anything I write could be the thing that makes them say, the hell with this guy. And actually, interestingly, that happened to me this year, where somebody who'd been very supportive of my work at one of the companies I wrote to me and was like, I just want you to know, I've unsubscribed from your newsletter. I no longer pay for it and I no longer read it because I think you've become too negative about our company and I don't think your work has the intellectual rigor that it used to.
Whew.
And of course, it really hurt my feelings and it really stung. And yet at the same time, I was just kind of in a way, this is good. I should not be waking up every day trying to make you, the executive, feel like I'm doing a great job. I should be making the workers at your company feel that way.
Yeah.
I should be making the people who use your apps feel that way, right? So while I value having that crowd as an audience for a lot of reasons, I would like to be able to communicate with them. It can't be my number one job.
I appreciate that answer a lot, actually, because I think a lot of people in your position would instinctively just say, oh, no way. But that's not human.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I wouldn't really believe it, especially if you've seen the names or they tell you. There's no way you're not thinking about them. But you can use it well, right? Where like if you do care about wanting to, if a company's doing something you disagree with, to try and get them to change, you have the ear of the person who can make the change. So if you can make your point well, maybe you'll be able to do something about it, right?
That's the dream.
You've mentioned as well, like having dinner with like Sam Altman executives and being able to speak to people. You've done a bunch of interviews in the past. Is access important to you?
It's a great question. Access is a trap. I think it almost always dulls your senses. When you are in the environment of the tech executive, and at a time when these people are truly among the most powerful people in the world, I think it's only human to have in the back of your head, like, I hope this isn't the last time. I hope that there can be another conversation after this. And I do think that that can lead you to soften your approach a bit. Now, at the same time, I am just not a confrontational person by nature. I don't like watching videos of other people confronting other people. I don't really follow the journalist whose stock and trade is sort of welcoming people into the chair and being like, screw you, I think you suck. Primarily, by the way, because I think you typically do not learn anything from the interaction.
Yeah.
So my approach to access has always been like, it's good if you can get it, particularly if you feel like you can learn things that you otherwise would not. And to the extent you're doing that, you should try to maintain the access. You should also expect that you are going to lose the access, because over the long arc of history, you're just going to write enough stuff that is going to be annoying enough that they're going to go try to find another journalist that they like better.
Yeah.
And I've had that experience too. With Altman, this was an interesting one because he had come on our show right before he got fired the first time. We had a really good interview, but then all this crazy stuff happened to him. I didn't see him for a couple of years. We did a live show and asked if he would come on it. And to our surprise, he said yes. And had what I thought was like a pretty good substantive interview. There was also some like drama and conflict and back and forth that you can go look up if you're curious. And after that, I sort of thought, well, I'm probably not going to see him for, a couple years, or maybe he hates me forever. Like, truly, I don't know. It's like you do the interview and then who knows what happened, but you try to kind of wear it lightly. And then literally like a month later, they're like, hey, Sam's throwing a dinner. Do you want to come? And I was like shocked. I did not truly think that I'd have this opportunity, but I'm glad in this moment that I'm like wearing all of it lightly. Like, again, I enjoy talking to these executives. I do feel like I learn things. I want to keep those channels of communication open, but I also I've just been doing this long enough to know that eventually they're probably going to give up on you. Not all of them do, for what it's worth. Some of them keep paying attention to you, and selfishly I have a lot of respect for those people. I also, for what it's worth, I try to write about companies where I feel like they like engaging with the press. Like, I would absolutely never be an Apple beat reporter. I would absolutely never be an Amazon beat reporter. Like, those companies, yes, they care on the margins about what the press is saying, but there's almost nothing I could ever write that would make Tim Cook feel like he had to talk to me. And that just kind of makes me want to not write about them.
He doesn't talk to
it's like,
anybody.
I want to write about places where I feel like I can penetrate a little bit.
Do you like interviewing executives? Is that something that you want to do?
I like talking to them off the record more.
Yeah.
Most of the executives are incredibly polished. It's like, I've had the chance to interview Mark Zuckerberg. It's always an interesting experience. I would love to do it again in the future. It's very difficult. He comes with a message that he's ready to sell, and he spends the entire interview selling it. And if you're lucky, you get 2 or 3 questions to try to break a little bit of news before the whole thing is over. Also, when you're doing that interview, you have the weight of the world on you, because when everyone watches it, everyone has in their mind the question that they would ask Mark Zuckerberg. And you're probably not asking that question right now.
Yep.
And so there winds up being this big backlash to hey, you didn't do it the way that I would do it. So I do find those kinds of interviews fraught. Now, on the other hand, interviewing Sam Altman is really fun because he is less careful. he will indulge a wide range of questions. He doesn't filibuster.
He'll
He
say
just kind
anything.
of tells you what he thinks. Yeah. And he just kind of moves on. So like to me, that's a great interview. If I could interview Sam Altman like once a month, I would be thrilled to do it. So all the executives are a little bit different, but I like the ones who seem like they actually like enjoy talking to the press and kind of like batting ideas back and forth, like getting into a little bit of mix up. You know, I think like Zuckerberg just feels like very burned by many of the interactions that he's had. And so when he goes into any interview, it's like the walls are up.
I've listened to many interviews that he's done, and I've been struck recently, especially, that it feels like he just says the same things and makes the same jokes to everyone. And it's like, oh, he just doesn't want to talk to people anymore, really, and he's being made to.
I think he's almost never had a good experience with an interview, honestly. Like, I think it's like there are just probably very few times where he talked to somebody and felt like, wow, I really liked that. I was really breathing easy the whole time, and I feel like I had a great conversation. Like, if he feels that about any interview, I think it would probably be like maybe the Joe Rogan interview or something, where he just kind of like didn't get asked anything too tough, kind of got to talk about everything he wanted to at like great length, and just kind of felt like he was hanging out. Like, that's where he's going to be the most comfortable.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that like I'm doing, it's probably always going to feel a little bit like torture, you know?
Because he's either doesn't like the questions or he knows there's one coming. Like, or just it's not something I want to answer.
Yeah, I mean, like he loves talking about is like product and like innovating. What he does not like talking about is the consequences of the products that he's built.
Yeah.
I almost always want to talk about the second thing. So
how do you stay inspired? How do you keep wanting to do this?
So I just picked a beat that I'm sincerely fascinated by. Like the whole social media era, I woke up every day just wanting to know what had happened to Facebook next, right? Particularly as everything started to get crazy with like the backlash and in 2016 and 2017. I just wanted to know what was going to happen next. I wanted to see how the industry was going to develop, which companies were going to win, which companies were going to lose, which companies were going to commit horrible atrocities. Like I wanted to know all of it. And then over the past few years, as AI has started to bubble up, that has just started to feel like maybe the biggest story of my tech career. And I'm very caught up in the horse race, but I'm also caught up in the safety implications of having large, powerful AI systems that are largely unregulated and might be very dangerous. So to me, this is just like the most interesting stuff in the world. I think the challenge as a solo entrepreneur is trying to understand what is my purpose in this moment. And I think that last year I struggled with that actually quite a bit because I was still coming out of that social media era where like I knew how I covered Facebook and like how I wanted to do that every day. I was less certain about what my role was in covering AI. But then like I started to figure it out and then it started to feel better. And like I feel like I got my legs underneath me and like now I know what I'm doing again. But I think it's in the nature of the media business that the thing that you write about and maybe like get some acclaim writing about, it's not going to stay hot forever. You're going to need to have a second act. And it's torture because who wants to change anything except for software, which you should change constantly and for no reason. But I did it. Like I got there. It was just like a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because it says, especially when new technology comes along all the time, and there's been a bunch of different waves over the time that I'm sure we've both been paying attention to technology, but they don't usually come with this big ethical baggage.
I mean, to me, it's the power of the systems that is the thing that like has me paying attention. There's real questions about whether these things become conscious. There's real questions about what happens after that. So some of your listeners will be rolling their eyes out of the back of your head and be like, oh my God, he's one of these AI hype beasts, disgusting. But like, I believe that stuff. And so, yeah, I'm going to be paying close attention to that for the foreseeable future.
Do you have systems in place for, if you find interesting things, saving them?
Yes. So the main thing I do is I use the Notion share sheet extension and Chrome extension, and I share everything I think is interesting into a database. The database is shared by my team. And if it's in the database, it goes in Platformer. So every day, like I save 30-ish links. My assistant goes through, takes the first pass at summarizing them. I then take a pass, sort of adjust and edit the summaries. And that's how stuff makes it into Platformer. Very recently, I've started to use the Notion AI feature to ask questions about this database, which has 5 years worth of links. So thousands and thousands of links. And you could Google this stuff, but what I like about my approach is a lot of the links that I've saved to Notion have the full article text. It is sometimes stuff that AI systems can't reach because they're all blocked from accessing websites like the New York Times and others. Because I'm a subscriber to those publications, I have just saved the article text, and now I can actually do really like amazing search stuff with it. So what I've always wanted is a database that I could talk to. And like literally within the past few weeks, I feel like I've gotten that. So like that's something that I'm actually like quite excited about.
And I guess as well, better than Google, this is stuff you've already vetted as interesting.
Exactly. And the Notion AI does a really good job at grounding its responses in your saved links. So there's like a citation icon after everything it says, and you click it and it pulls up the story from years ago where like that information is located. So a lot of people don't want to use these systems because they're hallucinate and make mistakes. That's a really good reason. You should keep doing that. Never bet your career on something an LLM says. But like this is a way around that problem that I think is insanely promising.
How much of your time are you spending playing with new technology? Like, do you make time to try new stuff?
Yeah, but it's like procrastinating time. You know, it's like my deadline for my column is an hour. This would be a really great time to check out a new to-do list app. Or like, I'm going to watch a YouTube video about a PKM system. So I do it at the stupidest, worst times, like very self-defeating times. Actually, maybe my favorite newsletter is David Pierce's Installer newsletter at The Verge.
Oh my God, I love Installer so much.
It's so good. It comes out every Saturday morning. It's just a bunch of stuff to try. Some of it's like watch this on Netflix. Some of this is like play a video game. But there's a lot of like productivity software in there. And so a lot of my favorite apps from the past few years I've just gotten from Installer. And so often Saturday mornings when it comes out, where it's like actually like I don't have something else to do and I do just do it for fun. So that's like kind of my fun time is Saturday mornings.
This episode of Cortex is brought to you by Factor. I don't know about you, but fall always feels like the time for a bit of a reset. Everybody's getting back into busier routines. Maybe your kids are going back to school. And when you add that to the shorter days, finding time to cook or the desire to cook can be tough. That's why so many people love Factor. Their chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious, no matter how hectic the season gets. With Factor, you can enjoy more variety and more meals. Choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. Support your wellness goals too. You can enjoy GLP-1-friendly meals and their new Mediterranean diet options, which are packed with protein and good-for-you fats. You can savor those global flavors. For the first time, try Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and more. From more choices to better nutrition, 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. You'll feel the difference no matter your routine. Now, I want to talk about this from a very personal perspective as a new dad. Our ability to cook at the moment has declined because we are so busy. And it's too easy to default to eating poorly because it's fast. I love to be able to take a delicious, balanced, well-made meal, put it in a microwave for a couple of minutes, and have something that makes me feel good, but also tastes good. That's what's so great about Factor. If you're in my situation, trust me on this, you're gonna have a good time. Eat smart at factormeals.com/Cortex50off and use the code Cortex50off to get 50% off on your first box, plus free breakfast for a year. That's code Cortex50off at factormeals.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. This offer is only valid for new Factor customers with the code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Our thanks to Factor for their support of this show and all of Relay. All right, I want to talk about your home screen because I think I can tell a lot about the things that you've maybe not said or you don't know you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
By looking at your home screen. And it's one that jumps out to me immediately. In your dock is Bear, which is a text writing app, so Markdown app. You didn't mention this. What's going on there?
I just take a lot of like quick transient notes.
Okay.
And I have like a few like pinned things that I like refer to like often enough that it makes sense there. Like I have a close group of friends. Whenever anybody like says something that makes me laugh really hard, I just write it down really quickly. But I also just find it great for writing down, I don't know, just like the little snippets of things that you write down, little reminders. So yeah, it's definitely a weird one. I do like my little Bear app.
It's not weird. You're just using it as a notes app, right? Where I think Bear would maybe talk about themselves more as a markdown text editor.
Oh, get over yourself. No, it's a notes app. That's
Your
what I would
icon's
say.
a bear. What do you want? Be serious.
Yeah, exactly.
App Store and settings. That's prime placement for those two.
Well, I spent a long time at The Verge, and I was very much immersed in the world of tech products. I love software. I love writing about software. And so many companies I wrote about were like burying news in their App Store updates. So it just became a daily habit to me to like go to the App Store, refresh the apps, and see if there were any new features. And sometimes I'd write about it before anybody else did. So the fact that the App Store has pride of place just shows you that I really do actually love trying new software and updating it.
The updates are very important. Threads is on your home screen.
Yes.
Do you consider that kind of like your home social network? Like it's what you want to be in?
It kind of changes back and forth between Threads and Blue Sky. I think Threads is the better reading experience. Like I see more stuff that's like fun and enjoyable. Also just more like news links. It's the closest thing I have to a replacement for Twitter. Blue Sky at times has been much better for actually like driving attention to my stories. So like sometimes Blue Sky will get really excited about something I write, and the numbers there will just be a lot bigger than they are in Threads. So it kind of just like goes back and forth. There would be like a good case to put Blue Sky on my home screen. I just haven't done it yet.
I respect Belatro getting first screen.
I love Belatro. That guy really snapped. Given the Nobel Peace Prize, he's made so many plane flights and train rides go by in a snap. I'm obsessed.
It's an incredible game. Do you know, I mean, I'm not sure how much you pay attention. They're anonymous. They don't accept awards. They have people accept them for them. They're just not interested in the spotlight.
It'd be amazing if his name was like Bill Atro, you know? I bet that's what it is.
Hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, hiding in plain sight, exactly.
Claude and ChatGPT on your home screen. Are you using them that often? I mean, you kind of referenced that you use ChatGPT and Gemini, but Claude is sitting there too.
Yeah, so I think I may update some of this stuff. There was a time when like Claude was like my default for everything. Disclosure, my boyfriend works at Anthropic, which makes Claude, but I was not using it for that reason. It was just kind of like, oh, Claude is kind of the best. ChatGPT really started to overtake it for at least my use cases over the past year. And so I put ChatGPT there as well. And so, yeah, I would say ChatGPT probably is now one of the most used apps on my phone now. Claude, a little bit less so. I think, again, like I don't have a lot of productivity uses on mobile. I do use every single chatbot on my desktop, but when it comes to just on the phone, 9 times out of 10, I'm just hitting ChatGPT unless I'm like looking up a conversation that I had like on another bot.
You have the Google app as well on your home screen. I feel like I never see anybody using the Google app.
Oh, I use that all the time.
What for?
For exactly what you said. Oh, I need to look up this thing really quick. I know what I'm looking for. What's going on? I mean, I guess I kind of use like Google and Google Maps interchangeably, but like, where is this restaurant? What's the address?
See, I just figured that stuff goes in Safari. I find that really interesting that you actually use Google for it.
Why do I use Google? I don't know. I should look up. What are like my last queries?
I mean, I guess you don't get the really annoying thing that you get when trying to use it in Safari, where it's like, would you like to open the Google app? Like, they just really want you to open that up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I could be using Safari more.
And you use Notion Calendar?
Yeah, I was like a Fantastical person for a long time, and then there were just like certain things that weren't working for me, and so Notion bought this company called Cron, and I really like Notion, and I really kind of wanted to see what they would do with it, and so I started using Notion Calendar, and I would basically say like, it's fine. I don't think anybody's really figured out the calendar thing exactly. Like, I'm not thrilled with any of my options, but that's the one I'm using.
I want to thank Casey again for joining the show. And of course, I want to thank you for listening to our conversation. And now I'm going to welcome Stephen Hackett to Cortex. Stephen is my co-founder at Relay. We have been working together for nearly 2 decades. And his son is the reason why we started to raise money for St Jude Children's Research Hospital. So I wanted to welcome him to the show to talk himself about why we do this, where your donations go to, and what we're all doing as a community this year to raise money for St. Jude. Stephen, can you tell the Cortex listeners what your backstory is with St. Jude? Like, why do we raise money for them every year?
Yeah, I'd love to. In 2009, my wife Mary and I had a 6-month-old baby boy, our first kid, and we went to like a well baby checkup. So if you're not a parent, or if you are, it has been a while, you take your baby into the pediatrician several times, kind of mark milestones of, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are they gaining weight? Are they growing? And we thought everything was fine. And our pediatrician had some concerns, and that set off, the meme of like, little domino, pediatrician has concern. Big domino, relay has raised $4 million. Like, that's how this has gone. And over the course of the coming days, it was discovered that our son had a fairly large brain tumor that was believed to be cancerous. And so he had surgery to remove part of that tumor, where part of his tumor is really near the brainstem. And so they couldn't go in there and remove all of it. So he was going to require chemotherapy. And that's where St. Jude and the Hackett family intersect. My wife and I are both from Memphis, where St. Jude is. So it's always been in my backyard, right? Memphis, St. Jude is everywhere. Like, I knew what they did, right? But I didn't understand it until my son was a St. Jude patient. And we made it over to the St. Jude campus. I'll never forget our first day. We were trying to run around and like make sure they had our paperwork and they had his scans. And the person helping us kind of get started at St. Jude, she just looked at us and was like, we know all about you and Josiah, your son. Like, we've got you. Like, you don't have to run around and take care of all these things. And it was just the first example of many where St. Jude takes care of families with kids with cancer. And our son underwent 18 rounds of chemotherapy over about a 1.5 year time period. So he was about 2 when chemo ended. And thanks to the amazing work of St. Jude, he is still with us today. He is getting ready to be 17. He's a man. He's my size. And that's all because of what St. Jude does.
Did Josiah receive treatment because you're in Memphis, or was that just lucky?
St. Jude would have taken him for his specific diagnosis. They have a process you go through where you may have a referring doctor or hospital. We were just fortunate that we were already in Memphis. And so one thing St. Jude does, if you do have to travel for treatment, they pay for that travel. They pay for your housing. St. Jude has some amazing housing on campus and right around the campus. And actually, Myke, when you're here, we're going to get to see some of that you haven't seen before. I'm really excited.
It's been being built the whole time we've been going there, doing the podcast-a-thon. And so I'm excited to actually now go and see how it's come out.
Mm-hmm. I got to go to the ribbon cutting, and it was just an incredible moment. They designed these places for families to be together. And so, very often it may be one parent traveling to Memphis if, it's a couple and they've got multiple children. So they're trying to take care of everybody through travel, through housing, and of course, treatment. And so we lived in our same apartment and, went to the same grocery store, but that's definitely not the case for most people who are at St. Jude.
Obviously, you went through such a huge, long, traumatic experience with Josiah. But lots of people go through many things with family members, friends, and loved ones.
Yeah.
But you came out of this them wanting to give back to St. Jude. Why?
Because I got to see up close what the power of hope can do. And like, that sounds cheesy or whatever, like I know, but I really mean it. Like, when you are on that campus and you meet and spend time with families who have stared into the abyss, right? Having a sick child, the possibility of losing a child is one of the hardest things a human being can go through. And thankfully, we were fortunate to come through it. It's not without scars. I have plenty. But once the dust had settled, Mary and I both wanted to find a way to spread what St. Jude was doing so they could help even more families. So more families would have the outcome that we did. And it took a little while to find what that was. But then one day it clicked. It's like, well, we have this audience through Relay. Let's put these two things together and see what happens.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm always struck by every year during the whole fundraising thing, but during the podcast-a-thon especially, we'll talk about the podcast-a-thon in a little bit, but we get to speak to patient families. And there's this like whole network of patient families that kind of provide their stories for fundraising efforts for St. Jude. And I'm always so hit by the fact that some of these stories, they're not the outcome that people would have wanted. Like the child didn't make it, but the experience that the whole family had with St. Jude means that these families actually still want to advocate for the place and talk about why it was so special for them, even though they weren't so lucky. Like, I'm always so struck by that. And I think it is a testament to how well they treat the children. It really is not like any other hospital in the world. And it's very special for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a true honor every year to get to talk to patient families. I just the other day recorded an interview with a patient family that'll be played during the podcast-a-thon. And it's like we have this connection with these families, right? As fellow patient families, like you've all kind of been through the same thing, but we all have a love for this place because exactly what you said, because they treated our children so well, and not just in the medical sense. Of course, it is the best pediatric cancer research hospital on the planet. Like, I believe that with everything in my body. But it's all of the other things that it's done without charging the families. I never received a bill. I mean, we've been a St. Jude family now since 2009. I've never received a bill from St. Jude. The fact that they are using research to push things forward, that's incredible. They're not happy with the status quo. They're dissatisfied with the survival rate being at 80% in the U.S. for childhood cancer. They are unhappy that families have to go through this. But then there's also just the environment and the atmosphere of the hospital. And you've been fortunate enough to see this over the years.
Yep.
St. Jude is not a sad place.
Nope.
Right? You think walking into a children's cancer hospital, like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be...
Nothing sadder than children's cancer, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
But this place is full of joy and light and bright colors and music and dancing, and almost every day there's a special event. There's a whole section of the hospital that medicine is not allowed in, right? It's like not for doctors, not for treatment. It's for families to connect and regroup, and there's a maker lab and a music lab and a hair salon, like all these places in the hospital to let families have as normal of life as they can during their darkest days.
I do want to touch on, before we talk about the podcast-a-thon, a little bit about the global impact of St. Jude, because I think that is important, right? Obviously, I'm not in the States, but that wouldn't matter. Like, if we needed, and if St. Jude wanted to treat us, they treat people from all over the world, but they also share the knowledge and share their resources with people all over the world. That is something that's so special to me. I was just talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the fact that St. Jude is offering cancer medicines to countries all around the world. And the initiative aims to reach more than 120,000 children in 50 countries over the next 7 years. But it's also the research. Like, the research that St. Jude does, they could keep it, right, for themselves. They could sell it. But no, they just give it. It just becomes part of medicine. They want everyone to have it. Because St. Jude doesn't win if only children that are treated at St. Jude make it, right?
That's right.
It's got to be everyone, and that's part of what the institution does, and I think that's so special.
Yeah, I recently saw an email from somebody who had a child with cancer. They were in Europe, and in their city, there was actually an amazing children's hospital, right? St. Jude is not the only amazing hospital in the world.
Yep.
And their child got the best possible care there. And what's really cool is that the doctors there were collaborating with the doctors at St. Jude, providing access not only to the information and data you were talking about, but actually to medication through shared clinical trials. So it's not just data, it's not just information, it's a relationship that St. Jude wants with these other hospitals around the world to extend their reach and to make cures available everywhere.
That's amazing. All right, Stephen, what's the podcast-a-thon? Like, we raise money all month, right? People can donate
We do.
all month, and I'm going to talk about the many ways in which you can help support this incredible life-saving work. But we also have an event every year called the podcast-a-thon. What is it?
It's the best day of the year, Myke.
Amazing. Okay.
So it is a 12-hour live variety show. We stream it on Relay's YouTube channel. So this year it's me and you and 4 other Relay hosts. And it's just 12 hours of fun, right? So we're going to be playing games, doing challenges, talking about St. Jude. I know you did an amazing interview with one of St. Jude's like researchers. And so all of that stuff gets rolled up together, and it's on Friday, September 19th this year. So it's right around the corner.
And it's starting at noon US Eastern time, right? There will be a link in the show notes to the YouTube video, and so you can see what time that is in your location and also click to be reminded. But of course, it will live on YouTube. But we'd love it if you tuned in. We do it for 12 hours, and we do it at the time that we do because we try and hit as many time zones around the world throughout the day. So even if you could just tune in for part of it, it is a great time. We have lots of physical and emotional activities, I guess is the way to describe it, like throughout the time. But also every year, like the production value of the podcast-a-thon increases, and this year there's a pretty big ace up the sleeve production value-wise, which I'm excited for people to see. It's just a really, really fun time, and I hope that everyone will tune in. What's the date again, Stephen?
It is Friday, September 19th.
I definitely didn't forget that. I want to tell people how they can support St. Jude, and there's a bunch of ways to do it. So we have asked over the last 7 years for you to donate, and you've shown incredible generosity. As Stephen mentioned, in the last 7 years, Relay has raised over $4 million, which is truly unbelievable for a podcast network of our size to have raised that amount of money, and that is because of the generosity of our listeners. So if you are to make an individual donation of your own of $60 or more, you'll be eligible to redeem a digital bundle of wonderful campaign-themed wallpapers and a screensaver for macOS. Donors who make a gift of $100 or more can redeem the 2025 sticker pack, which has a ton of great stickers this year, which the artwork is incredible, done by our friend Jelly. They look amazing. If you donate, make sure that you find out if your employer will match that donation. This happens employers big and small, so you can double the impact of your donation. When you make the donation, there is a blue button called Search Employer, and you can see if it's registered there, but you can also talk to your employer and they may be able to match it too. There are also things called donor advised funds. If you have one of those, we would love you to make a donation. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it, but you can find out more at stjude.org/relay. And if you are looking for even more ways to help, why don't you become a Relay community fundraiser? You can create your own personal fundraising campaign. This can massively impact the amount of money that you're able to give to the campaign, because you can go to your friends, your family, your co-workers and say, hey, I'm raising money for St. Jude. Why don't you donate? And so there are some incredible incentives that are available for different amounts raised, from challenge coins to desk mats and even a St. Jude backpack. All of this information is available at stjude.org/relay. I think this is one of the most amazing ways to get involved in the campaign, because even if you can't afford it yourself, you may be able to go to people in your life, in your community. Maybe you're a Twitch streamer. Maybe you just have a large social media following, right? Like you can set up your own campaign and it can help give. But no matter what you do, please go to stjude.org/relay. There are so many wonderful ways to get involved. All we ask is you take a look and see what works for you. And just know that every dollar you give makes an impact. And it also means so much to me and Stephen. Like, I've got to see Josiah through his entire life, and seeing that kid grow up, that's why we do this. We all got to spend time with him, and he's still here because of that work. And that is not just Josiah's story. That is the story of countless children who are helped by the work of St. Jude. So please go to stjude.org/relay and donate today. All right, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Cortex. I really hope that you enjoyed it. In more text this time, I welcome Casey back to the show to talk about some of the business aspects of running his newsletter, Platformer. You can get access to this really interesting conversation and the entire Moretex back catalog by going to getmoretex.com. I'll be back again soon with the next episode of State of the Workflow. I'm really excited about the guests that we have booked for the rest of the year. Thanks for listening to this episode. I'll be back soon.